the subsidies to crop production for ethanol as opposed to food, they've sent a very strong message, and the markets have shifted. My coalition, which represents the food pantries in Massachusetts, the Grocery Manufacturers of America, the NAACP, others who are concerned about the 83% rising cost of food, in part, not in full, but in part because of the congressional action on taking corn crops out of production. I don't know if anyone has the figure. I actually forgot to write it down. It's a stunning figure of the percentage of the corn crop that is now out of food production and into ethanol production. And the effects,
about 20%.
is it 20%? And the effects that it's having, and you could see if you're moving from 9 to 15, where that percentage would go on corn production. Our group, which is a national group launching in Massachusetts with Congressman McGovern next week, is to point this out. What we hope in this discussion is, because I think Massachusetts is also, in some respects, a consequence to the federal action. Massachusetts policy can only fit in the policy that's driven nationally to be able to be effective. And what we would like to see is, or I guess the question we would ask is, at what point does the cost of these subsidies tip the balance in the rising cost of food and its consequences to the people who are most dependent or most vulnerable to those rising costs? So there's two ways you could go with that. One would be to go backwards, which we're not advocating. The other would be to go as quickly as possible towards the companies that John represents, towards cellulosic production. And what we would like to do is use the fact that we've got the rising cost of food, its consequences, to be able to direct the congressional policy towards a faster action towards second generation and to get away from the dependence on first generation. You mentioned Brazil and sugarcane, and I won't even, because I'm not an expert, I'd hope to have Jonathan Lewis here who can speak more to the environmental impacts of first generation production. I am not, and I won't pretend to speak to it. I'll send me some talking points, but I'm not at all. I understand the food issue, not the emissions issue. But I have talked to some folks with CARE who are particularly concerned in Brazil of just the incentive to produce additional sugar cane and how it goes further and further up into the mountainside, and how they're clear cutting now to be able to produce more sugar cane because of the economic value to it. Those are real concerns, and however they're calculated, what we do see is the rising cost of food, and that has to be addressed.